the cumulative effect of sharing value in online spaces is huge. And you can't really judge the effectiveness based on like 6 months. You really need to give it that longer runway and keep showing up.
Hey, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Her Business Elevated podcast. And I'm your host, Demetria Zinga. And as always, I'm here to help you elevate your business with strategies that empower you to grow, influence, and make a lasting impact online. If you're new here, welcome to the Her Business Elevated community. And if you've been rocking with me for a while, thank you so much for tuning in again. I appreciate you so much. You know my motto, which is turning your profitable passion into a plan of action. And that's exactly what we do here, helping solopreneurs and entrepreneurs like you to build, scale, and sustain a business that you love. Now let's dive into today's episode because I'm so excited to introduce you to a powerhouse in the world of thought leadership and digital influence. And my guest today is someone who has helped countless authors, speakers, and entrepreneurs expand their reach and build their online presence in a way that truly makes an impact. She's the founder and CEO of Weaving Influence, which is a digital marketing agency specializing in helping thought leaders amplify their voices. She's also the author of Reach, Create the Biggest Possible Audience for Your Message, Book, or Cause, which is a must-read for anyone looking to establish their authority and grow their influence online. Today, we're talking about what it takes to build thought leadership online, what works, what doesn't work, and the real practical steps you can take to grow your audience with authenticity. So, grab your coffee or your tea or whatever fuels your creativity and get ready for an inspiring conversation. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Her Business Elevated podcast. Today's special guest is Becky Robinson. And so we're going to be talking with Becky today about everything that she does in her business and why she feels like this is such an important part of our business, looking at our visibility. And so we have so much to talk about. But first off, welcome to the show, Becky.
Thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to be here with you.
All right. I love talking about our personal lives a little bit in the beginning of a show because it helps us to resonate with everything that's real and practical about owning and running a business. So I'd love to hear more about you and yourself, your family, and some of the things that you love to do in your pastime.
Sure. I would be thrilled to share that with you. So I'm the mom of 3 adult kids with my husband, Eric. We've been married nearly 32 years, and we have a son who is 23, a daughter who's 20, and only one child still at home. She's 18 and still in a high school college program. So I'm definitely adjusting to that like emptier nest phase of life. And as far as like things that we enjoy, we have some land here, so I love to play outside with my dog. I'm a distance runner, although at the moment I'm not running, but running is a great way for me to get some quiet time alone to think and also spend time with friends. And I love to read.
Awesome. And I see where we have some similarities. I have an 18-year-old at home as well, so kind of getting into the emptier nest. And yeah, I love that. I'm reading her mug right now for those of you who are listening and not watching, but it's awesome. So Weaving Influence, right? The name of your business. I would love for you to tell me how you got started and share about your entrepreneurial journey, because I know it's a journey and we didn't just start with a boatload of clients. Like there was a path that got us where we are today. So tell us about your journey.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So when I was listening to one of your shows earlier, I heard that you were a homeschooling parent at the beginning of your journey, and that's actually where I started as well. So if you want to go back in time to about 2009, at the time my kids were 8 and 6 and 3, something like that. And my husband had asked me one day, hey, when the kids are in schools at some point, what are you going to do for work? And I had stepped out of the workforce entirely to be able to be home with my kids when they were young, which I feel super blessed to have been able to do. I absolutely adored being a stay-at-home mom with them and just all of those precious times that we had when they were young. So at any rate, I wasn't really sure what I would do with myself. The career that I had before kids wasn't something that I was going to return to. And so I started thinking about what I love to do, and the thing that I landed on was writing.
Mm.
So back in 2009, I started doing some freelance writing, which actually turned into some opportunities to learn social media marketing by doing freelance social media marketing. That was really when at the beginning of when folks were starting to use Twitter and blogging, maybe a little late compared to when you started. But for me, it was like kind of the beginning of like discovering, well, how do you use social platforms to make connections? And what was really interesting is that I did build a lot of relationships quickly. I got a job eventually working for a leadership consultant. And the very first role that he had me working on was launching his book in 2011. And so it was like my introduction to the book marketing world. And I loved it. I loved the creativity of figuring out how to connect authors and audiences. And what I found is that my own social media presence led to people coming to me to say, "Hey, I saw you launching this book. Would you help me launch mine?" So in about 2011, I took on my first client. And I had this vision that I could just be a consultant and I could spin up all these creative, strategic approaches to how people could market their books, which I actually get to do a lot of now. But back then, what I found was the authors who were coming to me who needed support on their book marketing didn't only want a strategist. What they really wanted was hands-on support.
Yeah.
And so that was what prompted me to build a team. So from 2012, I started to hire, at the time it was subcontractors, now it's employees, but I started to hire other people to be able to implement and provide the support that the clients needed. So not only could I dream up these strategic and creative ways that authors could connect with their audiences about their books, but then I could also back it up with a team of support to implement the ideas that we created together. So that's how Weaving Influence got started. In the beginning, it was mostly social media and email marketing and content marketing. We eventually added like web, we added PR, we've added virtual events, we've added really all the components that an author would need to be able to effectively get their message out to the world.
Wow, that's quite a journey, and it sounds like you have a full scale service there going. And it's what you, I love that you said, I realized that it's not what my clients needed. They needed a bit more than just the strategy. They needed the hands-on, and how you took
Mhm.
that pivot and decided, okay, well, I'm going to give you what you need, and build out your business and creative agency, just offering what your customers need. And so I think it's really important just for us to take that as a takeaway, like listen to our customers, listen to what they want, and see how we can help them. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, in some ways I didn't know what I was doing. I had never worked in an agency. I didn't know what an agency was supposed to be. And I think in some ways maybe that was a benefit because I could start with my own values and I could build an agency around like what values do I want to come through my work. And I did that from the beginning of, I want flexibility. I want other people who might be working moms like I was to be able to have flexibility so they can show up for their families the way they want and show up at work the way they want. Another one was generosity. Like I always want to give as much away. I mean, obviously I want to run a profitable business, but I want to be generous with my like spirit and kindness and sharing what I know with others. So I really tried to build an agency based on values, instead of just like on something that I didn't know. I
Yeah.
actually never even took a marketing class in my whole life.
Wow.
Everything I've done, I've learned by doing.
That is awesome. And that's encouraging too, just to hear you say that. Like you didn't need to take classes, nothing wrong with that. But I love that you learned by doing, and that's how you got where you are today. It's a very organic way of looking at business and life and entrepreneurship. Like it's just this whole organic way. I keep saying organic, but it's just so natural. It's what we learn. We take one step at a time, one foot in front of the other to get where we're going. And we don't have to have it all figured out in the beginning. So, um, okay, you wrote a book, right? It's called
Oh,
Reach.
it's called Reach. Create the
Okay,
biggest possible audience for your message, book, or cause.
nice. Okay. Now, when you wrote this book, what were what inspired you to write the book? So you have your business happening and you've got your clients coming in. And so what was it in your heart that said, okay, I need to write a book to solve this problem?
Well, so I had mentioned that when I was trying to figure out a new career, the thing that showed up was like, I love to write. So it was a really interesting journey for me to work with authors and to be able to get insight into what it was like to live that author journey. And from the very earliest projects that I did, I I felt like in a way I was like viewing my dream from a distance because, deep down I knew that someday I wanted the chance to write a book myself. Um, so there were several reasons that I decided to finally write my book when I did. I was about 10 years into my business when I finally did write a book. And you've written some books too, right?
Yeah, I wrote one.
For me, a lot of it had to do with, I'm supporting authors. I'm getting to see what the publishing industry is like, what it's like to be traditionally published, or what it's like to have a hybrid publisher, or what it's like to be self-published. And of course, at different points of working with authors, you get to glimpse, some of the struggles that authors face, some of the joys that they experience, the ways that the book is helping them to build their business. And so I had a few reasons I wanted to write the book. One was that I was hoping that I could scale my ideas so more people could access them. But there was also a part of me that really wanted the chance to have a bit more empathy for my authors and what they're experiencing. Because even though I was walking with them through the journey of their publication and marketing their books, until you really experience it yourself, you're not going to have the same kind of insider view to have that deep empathy.
Yeah.
So part of my decision was, I want to do this in a way that helps create more empathy for my clients and what they're going through. And then there's just this like, achievement goal that I had of like someday to walk into a bookstore and see my book on the shelf. And the more time went on, and as there are fewer books in bookstores and there's like more print on demand, I was worried that the more time that went on, that the chances of that dream being a reality would diminish because, in reality, many of the books that are written don't ever end up on the shelf in a bookstore. Thankfully, I did have the chance to see that dream realized. I walked into several different airport bookstores where my book was featured. I went into my local Barnes and Noble and found my book on the shelf a couple times. An independent bookstore brought my book in for an event, of course, so it was on the shelf of that store as well. So it was a lot of things converging at once, but I think primarily as a business owner, I was excited about the possibility of sharing value with a wider range of people who could access my insights and approaches in the form of a book where they might never have the chance to work with me.
Yeah. I just think that's amazing to walk into Barnes and Noble and see your book, your name on the shelf, like next to all the other books. Okay, there's yours. And I just think that's an awesome feeling that it must feel great to see that and to have that accomplishment. And I think a lot of people are probably wondering if they can ever get there one day because they want that experience as well. I mean, we all have a message and we want to share it, and there's different ways and avenues to share that. But writing a book is just, I think it's a great way to solidify your message into to paper and put it on the shelf, right? It's that hands-on approach that people want a book to take with them, take it home and read.
Like I know you speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and I would say the impact on your business is incalculable. So my book came out in May of 2022, and I've seen like several things that have happened as a business owner. So one is that when people who might choose to work with you or hire you read your book, they're going to be able to tell really quickly based on the contents of your book, if it's centered on your business offerings, they're going to be able to tell if you're a values and approach and good match. And, I can always tell if a prospective client has read my book. It's like immediately we have a common language that we can share. We have, they can select in or they can select out based on how they feel about my approach once they've read my book. So there's also this credibility that a book holds for you. And I have seen that it's way easier to attract new business when I'm sending out my book as part of the sales process. I just find that it has a major impact. And so when I look at our revenue growth from when my book came out until now, it has been much faster because of having a book out in the world.
That's important. That's important to be able to track the growth of your business based on your offerings. And your book is one of those offerings. And to see that just that one-on-one correlation, I created this product and here's what happened in my business as a result. So I'm thinking that part of what you were mentioning earlier, like writing a book, is in housing that sort of thought leadership. You're solidifying that in your book. And so, can you give our listeners just a quick overview of 4 steps to establishing thought leadership online?
I'd be happy to. So, in my book, I talk about what I call the 4 commitments, and I think this will be the most helpful for your listeners. Um, so, if you want to be a thought leader online and share your expertise and make a difference and grow an audience, it all is going to start with creating value. And I know, Demetria, that you do a lot of like content marketing, and I listened, to your show, and I know that's a huge area of passion for you. And so, I'm sure your listeners have heard you talk about the value of content. And one of the things that I've learned, even since my book came out, because you won't find this in my book, but the value can be as a thought leader, not only the content that you're creating, but also the connections that you're making. And so, if you want to be a thought leader, it really does start with this choice to show up in a meaningful way with content of value to share with others. So, the first one is value. The second is consistency. And I think you've been doing this like over 20 years, right? That is extreme consistency. And it doesn't mean that you have to do the same thing in the same way every time. So, you don't have to have the same blog for 20 years or the same podcast for 20 years, but a consistency of presence, of continuing to show up over time with value. And over time, people can rely on you. They know what you have to bring. And that consistency is critical in cementing your thought leadership online. The third part is longevity. And you demonstrate that in your journey so well. I can say, hey, I've been doing this since 2009. Which I guess, good grief, that's 16 years. That's a long time too. You've been doing it 20 years. What I find sometimes is that people get frustrated. I've been following this doctor who I happen to connect with based on some medical issues I was having, and he just launched a business in August of last year, and he's seeing significant growth of his thought leadership brand. And then he's asking, well, how can I see more growth? Well, you keep showing up, consistently and like over a long period of time. So a year from now, or 2 or 5, the cumulative effect of sharing value in online spaces is huge. And you can't really judge the effectiveness based on like 6 months. You really need to give it that longer runway and keep showing up. The final point, or the fourth commitment, is a commitment to generosity. And I mentioned the value of generosity earlier, but I have seen on my own journey that the more you can give away value to others freely, whether that's content or it's encouragement or it's, seeing someone, acknowledging them, generosity of spirit and time, I think can help solidify someone's thought leadership over time as well. And it's the unexpected element because of, different constraints. We may not always be able to like give away books, for example, which I love to do. And I'm grateful that I have the chance to do, but giving away what we have to give away, even if it's just that seeing someone else or acknowledging them or amplifying their work in some way.
I love that. And so all 4 points are just right on point. For lack of a better way to fit that. But there are 2 of those points that really stand out to me. And I love the consistency part of it because that's of course what creates the longevity. It's being consistent and not giving up. So I'm glad that you have that as one of your points. And the other one, generosity, that was kind of a surprise, but I love that we have to remember it's I mean, yes, we're running a business, but the generosity part, sometimes give away something and make that connection. And that's all part of the human interaction and just loving your customers, loving the people that you say you want to serve. And so I love that you added generosity as part of that.
What I found is I can never give away more than what comes back. And it's hard to believe. I think sometimes we think if we give away too much, then we're missing out. And I have never lacked it. I've always found that it's worthwhile to be able to give.
Exactly. It's so good to give. And I'm thinking about those who are listening who may be just getting started to build out their online presence, and it's really overwhelming. But I love that we have voices like yours on this podcast to encourage us that it can be done. But like, what are some of the first steps that they can take to get started in thought leadership?
Sure. I think it should always start with strategy. So understanding, who you want to serve, what value you hope to bring to them, and really having a clear picture of what success looks like for you, being clear about your areas of expertise. So I would always encourage people who are just starting out, even if you can't afford to invest in a strategy with an expert like me, even having a friend to walk alongside you and try to help you think through those questions. And generally, the first step for most any author is to identify your home online. And especially in these days where, like, for example, when we're recording this, TikTok was down for 12 hours or something. I try to emphasize the importance of the channels that you yourself own and control. And that really starts with your own website. So if you're just getting started, I would spend time prioritizing my website and how I'm showing up there as a first step. From there, I also believe strongly in the power of email marketing. And so taking the chance to be able to build out a list of people who give you permission to stay in contact with them is another important first step. But I would say also, if you're getting started, it is easy to get discouraged. And if you can have that longer term view, hopefully you realize that it's okay to be a beginner and it's okay to not know what to do next. It's okay to ask for help. And you'll find that people do want to help you. I'll never forget, I actually have an online connection to this day with a guy named Wally Bach. He's a ghostwriter and a writing coach. And I met Wally when I wrote my first blog. He gave me a chance, I think, by either like promoting my blog on his or letting me do a guest post or something like that. And those early opportunities where someone says, like, what you're doing is worthwhile and I'm going to help you get it to more people. And, to this day, he refers business to me. I refer business to him. So, not being afraid to ask for help when you need it at the beginning. If someone has a bigger audience than you, offer to write a guest blog or just making those early connections where others who might be a little further on the journey can give you encouragement.
Yeah, yeah, not being afraid to ask for help. And I totally agree with you because we need it. We need the help, especially in the beginning. We're attempting to build something that we've never built before. We're chartering uncharted territories. We're entering something that we've never entered. So we need all the support and handholding that we can get. Even if we're years down the road into business, we need support from others. And so I think that's excellent advice. And I don't know, I just feel like your career as a digital marketing professional just it I can see that it's rewarding to you. I can see that you are vibrant, yet you're happy in what you're doing, that it fulfills you in some way. So can you tell me maybe a little bit about some of your most rewarding moments in your career?
Wow, that's a really excellent question. So I will share some. This might not be what you expect, but for me, one of some of the most rewarding moments have been obviously with the people that I've met on the journey, and of course, when you're leading an organization that's bigger than yourself, a lot of that comes from the satisfaction of your longer term relationships with the team that you create. So when I think about rewarding moments, I think about Aubrey, who's on our team. She's an account manager, and Aubrey was pretty like younger when we met. She's been working with me now for 7 or 8 years. But a few years into her journey working with Weaving Influence, she came to me one day and she said, I'm taking another job. This agency has offered me a position. It pays more money. They have health insurance benefits. At the time, Weaving Influence didn't offer health insurance. And the two of us sat in the office, and I can't remember if we both cried or if it was just me who cried. But I was so sad to lose her talent. And for me, it was a very pivotal moment because at that moment I decided like I can't continue to bring young talent into my organization and lose them because I'm not offering benefits that could retain them.
Hmm.
And so, not long after that, I got with the person at the time who was leading operations at my company. We figured out, like, actually, we can afford to offer health insurance, and we got some plans set up. And about 9 months later, we had the opportunity to sit down with Aubrey again and offer her a position back in our organization. And we had insurance available, and she chose to come back. And so, we don't even count the time that she was gone, but just like the joy of, building relationships with other professionals, giving them a chance to build a lifestyle and work life that they love and is flexible, and just to have that longer term relationship where you work with people and have the chance to just support each other's journey. For me, those kind of moments or those kind of stories are among the most impactful. Those are the ones I'll remember.
Oh, that's beautiful. What I've loved about our conversation is that as a digital marketing expert, you know a lot about branding and visibility and all of these things that go with the digital marketing world, but yet you're talking about relationships and building those foundational relationships, reaching out to others, showing generosity. And so I love that you're bringing the human touch, the reality of what business should be, the warmth and the personableness, if that's a word, of just making those human interactions the paramount and the most important in your business. And so I applaud you for that. I think that that's the way to go. And it's what makes a successful business and one that you feel fulfilled at the end of the day. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for the chance to share.
Yeah. And so you have more information about Weaving Influence and also about your book Reach. So how can our audience reach you and get your book?
Sure. So, my company website is weavinginfluence.com. If you want to look a little bit more at my entrepreneurial journey, you can also find me at beckyrobinson.com. On social media, I'm primarily on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Threads, and my handle is Becky and then Robinson without the vowels, RBNSN. So I would welcome connections on LinkedIn or Instagram or Threads, which is like my favorite channel at the moment, which is probably silly. Also, I always want to make sure that if my book could add value to people and they don't necessarily have the means to purchase the book, I would welcome anyone to email me, Becky at weavinginfluence.com. I have a form that you can fill out. If you give me your address and you live in the United States, I'll sign a copy of my book and give it to you. And just please feel free to email me and I'd be happy to hook you up with a copy. If you happen to be around the world, I don't want to exclude you from my offer. I do have a PDF copy I can send to folks if they're not in the United States. So for your listeners, Demetria, please email me. I'm happy to get you a copy of my book. If you'd prefer to choose to buy it, and I appreciate the support, it's available in online retailers everywhere. But honestly, I'm thrilled to give my book away. It's a seed. If it can add value to your journey, I'd love to get a copy out to you.
Wow, Becky, that's amazing. That's amazing. I've never had anybody offer that before. So, guys, that's what this is all about. So, I love it.
I
Thank
try to walk my talk.
you do. You definitely do. And so, I'm gonna just we're gonna wrap this up, and I want you to give us the final word of encouragement on this show, this podcast episode today. A piece of advice for anybody that wants to expand their audience and influence.
Sure. So, I have a story I like to tell. It's about trees. I happen to live in the country on 5 acres, and our property is surrounded by trees. But when the house was built in the early 90s, there were not very many trees on this property. And the reason why I enjoy a life that's like beautiful with all the trees and peace and privacy is because the man who originally built the house chose to invest in planting a lot of trees, over 500, and cultivating them over time. And then my husband has done the same to plant trees. I think those of us who choose to show up in online spaces to add value to others are planting trees. We're putting value out into the world. We may not enjoy the fullness of the harvest in terms of, the guy who planted these trees is no longer here to enjoy them. I'm the one who is here to enjoy them. And so I just want to encourage those who are out there creating and sharing value that you are like someone who chooses to plant trees and wait for them to grow, and keep going, because you cannot always know the difference that your life and work and value and words are making a difference for others. So keep showing up with that.
Keep showing up. Ah, love that. Thank you. You have been so motivating, encouraging. Actually, this is very heartwarming. So for the rest of the day, I'm just like on this little buzz. Thank you for this conversation. It's very encouraging. And I invite everyone to reach out to Becky, and we'll have all of her information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure. It was great meeting you.
What an incredible conversation. A huge thank you to Becky for sharing such valuable insights with us today. And I hope you're walking away feeling inspired and ready to take action on building your thought leadership online. So we're going to do a quick recap of some of the key takeaways from today's show. The first is that we talked about the power of value, consistency, longevity, and generosity when it comes to establishing your authority online. So if you want to grow, These 4 pillars are essential. Secondly, for those of you just getting started, the most important step is to show up with intention and clarity. Identify your audience, refine your message, and create content that resonates. And finally, whether you're an entrepreneur, solopreneur, or author, however you see yourself, remember that growing your influence takes time. So stay committed, stay visible, and keep adding value to your audience. I encourage you to connect with Becky and learn more about her business, Weaving Influence, at her website. And you can find more by visiting her at her socials. And of course, if you enjoyed today's episode, let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me over on Instagram, LinkedIn, or wherever you love to hang out online. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And hey, don't forget to check out my YouTube channel for even more business tips and solopreneur advice and some digital marketing strategies. I've been posting a bit about podcasting there. So I want to help you turn your profitable passion into a plan of action. If you found this episode valuable, please take a moment to rate it, review it, subscribe, all the good stuff. It truly helps more people to discover this show. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep showing up, keep growing, and keep elevating your business to your online business success.